welcome to another First Class Cricket Canny podcast. In this podcast, we, as usual, joined by Darren and Raj, but we also have another special guest joining us today. We have Tom Haines, who is a Sussex First Class Cricket player, opening batsman, who has been at Sussex for most of his life. How are we doing, Tom?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Not bad at all. Darren and Raj?
Hi, you okay?
Good, thanks. Darren?
Yeah, yourself?
Yeah, not doing too badly. So, Tom, I suppose the first question I'm going to ask you, are you doing any training at the moment or anything during this lockdown period?
Yeah, we are quite lucky. We got, we had January off because the Sussex area was quite infested. But we've been back since the start of Feb, 4 times a week, which has been quite nice, doing a lot of batting. So yeah, we're quite lucky to be able to just get out of the house, do that.
What sort? Was it just like nets and stuff, or fitness and other things?
Yeah, so we got 3-hour slots. We're in little pods, so we get 2 hours cricket, probably like an hour and a half batting for me, and then half hour just get my bowling and fielding done, and then an hour in the gym. Quite tough, but it's been good fun.
Cool. Darren, you've known Tom since quite a young age. What were your first impressions as him as a young player?
Well, the first thing I noticed was he's grown up in a family with his dad played cricket with me for most of my life as well, and he was obviously coming to see us play when he was being pushed around in a pushchair, and I noticed from a weird sort of throw balls at him afterwards. And the thing that I first noticed was when he was about 3 or 4, because obviously I assume Tom would have watched a lot of cricket when he was younger. When you threw a ball full to him, he'd put his foot forward towards the ball. When you threw a short ball to him, he'd go back. Now, to me, as a coach, the most difficult thing to teach a youngster is picking length and what you go forward to and what you go back to. And the fact that he understood that at 3-4 years of age, I thought, yeah, he's got a chance of going quite a long way.
So, Raj, you obviously coached Tom. You took him to India. Do you think that experience going to India was quite important to any player, really, not just Tom, so other players?
From an outside point of view than a cricket point of view, I would think, because it's completely different, and cricket in India is a complete different ball game, and his experience there, I think, just helped him to grow at a faster rate, which is my thoughts, and helped him understand what people talk about playing on different wickets and what adjustments you need to make to play on those wickets against different bowlers. He understood that at quite a young age. So I think the first day he batted there, we were at lunch, and he had the guy who was serving lunch. He came to me and he said, "One of your boys is not having lunch." And I said, "Why?" He said, "He's not very happy." And I said, "Okay." So I went in and I saw him sitting down, and he was really upset because he had a mare of a net. Okay. And that was his first day. And so I took him aside, and I think I asked him something on the lines of, I didn't talk cricket. I just asked him something on the lines of, imagine that kid who is in backstreet Africa. Okay. What's he looking for? Is he looking for bread and water, or is he looking for cakes from Harrods? So he turned around and he said, bread and water. I said, just go there and survive. And he went in after lunch, and there was, I think, a 2.5, 3-hour session. And by the time the session was about to end and he was still batting, we had all the coaches at that academy come and stand behind the net of their own accord, just seeing him bat. So that told you something about the guy straight away. And all the coaches there were no numpty coaches. So everyone had played the game. Okay. And everyone was standing behind the net. They had left their own nets and come, and they were watching him bat.
Yeah.
So that actually said volumes about a boy who's at that point only 12.
Yeah, it's interesting. Tom, when you first started off at Sussex and under 14s, obviously you had the ambition to be a professional cricket player, but did you think you would get there? Do you think you would fall short of it, or did you always think that it would happen?
I've always believed in myself. I've never thought, no, that's way out of my reach. I'd say it's been a weird ride. Like I say, from sort of when I went to India to when I was about 16, I really, really improved quite quickly, and I felt unbelievably confident in myself. And like going to Bunbury at that sort of age, 15, and I've never felt so sure of myself when I was playing cricket, and I thought from there it was just going to be an easy ride to being a pro. And then you start playing second team. I think I played my first game at 15 or 14, I can't remember. But sort of 18, 19 were quite difficult years for me. I didn't actually score many runs. Luckily, I was given a contract when I got straight out of school. And so I've sort of been given an opportunity to express myself. But they were actually quite difficult years, and I'm only now in the last couple of years really finding out my game and like working out for myself. There was a lot of 18, 19, there was a lot of trying to be other people that I'm not. Seeing people in my team who have success, and I'm trying to do the exact same as them, but I'm actually a different batter to them. So it's only actually been the last couple of years where I've really started to work, or the last year or so where I've really started to work my game out. But I've always had confidence in myself that I would be a pro, and now it's about maintaining that and not falling out of the game.
Yeah, I suppose when you scored 100 in September, that was probably a real against Surrey at the Oval, so playing at proper big ground. Did that just give you that extra confidence, that to believe in yourself and knew that actually you're in the right place, you're in the right spot, that I can do it?
Yeah. I mean, I did some work with Raj early in the summer, and I'd felt good all summer. I hadn't got the big score, but I'd been facing 60, 70 balls for 20 odd most games, and I felt it coming. It wasn't a massive shock when I got 100. It was just more of like the work's paid off sort of thing. And now I know that I'm not a batter that can go into a hall for a practice session and can face 2 buckets of machine and then, oh no, I'm done. But I have to face and hit loads and loads of balls for anything to work. And it's all about volume. And I was speaking to Alistair Cook in the summer at the end of the Essex game, and he said, there's 2 things I can be, and that I faced the most balls in training, and I'm the fittest I can be. And that was what he said to me. There were his 2 main messages. Yeah. And they're pretty 2 simple things that I can control, that I can take forward.
So I suppose to Raj and Darren, when did you realise, so Raj, did you think, so when you first met Tom and doing training with him, did you straight away think he would get there? Or was it a case of him having to go through the stages, going to India, facing spin, understanding his game, and coming back?
You might call me a weirdo, right? But when I see people, because I come from a country of more than 1 billion people. And in my journey growing up, we have encountered a lot of people, Asian people growing up there. And as it is, life is very hard. and the cricket circuit is extremely competitive. Extreme, I mean, people in England cannot imagine how competitive it is, right? We were talking last day. Every million boy who plays proper cricket, one plays first class cricket. So most of them are in that threshold, but only one plays first class cricket. So that's the level you come through. So what happens is your eyes get trained to certain type of movements, and it's not only his cricket. By the time I took him to India, I was 100. Anyone could have told me, I was 100% convinced this guy is going to play. Okay, it's not only about his batting bowling. It is how he conducted himself. It is his body movements, how he carried his kit, how he was waiting for the bus or the cab to arrive when everything had been done. There's a pattern of movement of cricketers. I'll tell you an interesting story here. This is a long time back. We used to do Northern Nights training at that point at Hancross Park. And so we were doing selections in September. So most of you know Graham. Graham was there. Me and Graham rocked up. We parked the car and a boy turned up for trials. As he got out of the car and his dad helped him to get the kid bag, I looked at him and I said to Graham, can't play. It was just my reaction, can't play. So Graham turned around to me and he said, you can't be so prejudiced. That was his exact words. Say, okay. 2 minutes later, but we hadn't left the car park. Another car rocked up. Guy gets off, gets his kit bag. Out he comes, went past us. I said to Graham, can play. So Graham by that time had enough of it. Okay. So he said, no chance, you can't do that. I say, okay, lunch. If I get it wrong, right, I'm buying you lunch. If I've got it right, you're buying me lunch. Done deal. The first guy went to the net. We were doing assessments on various stations. He was with me at 62 mile an hour. He was under 14 at that point, 62 mile an hour on the short ball, jumped away to the square leg umpire. The guy who I had said that can play came in, first ball, bang, second ball, pull, front foot. Okay, I just pulled Graham from that side, showed him the two. I say, thank you, lunch is on me. Lunch is on you. Okay, that second guy is now playing for Worcester, a guy called Alex Milton. Okay, but it is not difficult to see. The movement pattern is completely different. You're looking for a movement pattern. Until you see that movement pattern, it's very, it's tough. And by the time I saw him for a week, 10 days in India, I was 100% convinced. Before I knew he was a good player, right? He at 12, he was pulling 74 miles on the machine. At 12, you don't see that regularly.
So it's just how you want to go into it, isn't it? It's how you want to go into your training. You either go in and take it seriously, or you just. And I think obviously taking it seriously is the right way, because obviously where Tom is now. So, Raj, Darren, you got anything to add on Raj's point of when you think about Tom making?
Well, after what I said earlier, when he was very young, I went to see him when I think he played a under 15 game for Sussex. I think it was down in Kent when I think he was 13, and he scored 100 that day. And I hadn't seen him play for a few years because I'd cleared off and played for another club, so I didn't really see him and his dad much. And he scored 100 that day, and I just, having not seen him for ages, he just looked really, really compact. And I think I said to his dad, he looks a bit like Justin Langer here. batting, which may or may not be a compliment. I don't know how he feels about that. But yeah, and then also, I think it might have been the same year. I didn't see it, but I heard about it because I think as a 13-year-old, he might have been 13, he might have put me right here, might be 14. He scored 50 in the Premier League for Horsham at Preston Nomads against Carl Simon, James Anyon and Matt Hobden. Were you 13 then or 14? 14, yeah. And then sort of against a bowling attack like that, which obviously three very class quick bowlers, and being such a youngster, and he wasn't very big then either, still quite small, to score 50 against them, I think was a really, really good achievement at 14. So that's when I sort of stood up and thought, yeah, he probably is going somewhere now.
Personally, Ollie,
yeah,
I think he is in a really good place now for the simple reason that when his journey started in real cricket, he was very young. Now, every player goes through this. So you come in and you play your natural cricket till a certain point of time. After that, you get into a circuit, you see a lot of good players, and you want to get better. So you start doing things which other people are doing, thinking that it will work or I'll be better for that. All right. But you go through that time and quickly, some people take a lot of time and some people take very little time to figure out that no, my natural game is the best way to go about it. Okay, I can't be someone else. Though someone looks maybe very attractive, he makes batting look easy, or he can power it, or whatever it could be. And then the quicker you realize that, no, I need to stick to my own game and come back to your own game, that's when the player actually understands his own game and flourishes as well. And he could have done that, what he said, that he's learning about his own game. He could have done that at 27. But at the moment, he's done it a lot earlier. So that gives him a better place to be in. That's my thoughts.
I suppose the message, as a young player myself, the message I'm getting is that it's the attitude to your training. It's not all about, I think a lot of people just think it's turn up, hit balls, go home. But I think, like you say, how Tom, when he saw, carrying his bag, and how the first impressions start early. So when they get to the ground, when they go and put their kit away, when they, go out and start training, I think it's quite important, isn't it, to give good first impressions. Right.
But he wasn't trying to give impressions.
No, but yeah, exactly. But naturally,
it was his natural. He's done it so many times. It has become his natural.
Yeah. So that just tells you as a player that naturally he can.
Yeah.
He's able. Yeah. Tom, do you have anything to add on that?
Well, that is, Raj hit the nail on the head there. Really, like the earlier I can realise that my own game is the best way of scoring runs for me. The earlier I can realise that, the better and the longer my career will be. I mean, there's other players in our squad, like if you look at Phil Salt or Luke Wright, who the best way for them is how they do it. But because I've seen them be so successful in the last couple of years, I've thought I'm going to try and take things from them, and him over there. And it doesn't work for me. I can only be the best with my own skill set. I can't get anyone else's skills. Like, you can only be the best with your own skill set. So the quicker you realise that,
that's what people
better, really.
That's what people get confused about, do you think? When they see a really good player scoring runs, but then you're not scoring runs, so then you feel down with your own game. Then you go and ask him the question: shall I go and copy what he's doing? Stuff like that.
It's not even like asking them questions. It's just natural human instinct. I think that you see someone else doing something better than you at that time, and you think, I'm going to do that. Like I think that's what it is. But the quicker you can just settle with the skill set you've got, and I'm not saying my skill set couldn't achieve runs in the formats that Salty and Righty do, but I just think the quicker I can realise that if I make my strengths super strengths, then we'll just go from there.
What do you say your hardest challenge has been from the start of your career to now? What's been the most challenging period for you? Not challenging, but a time when you thought, just had having to think about things more than you would have liked to, maybe.
Yeah, as I said earlier, like from the age of 20, 21, I just didn't have any confidence. I was going out to bat, and I didn't know where I was going to score runs. I didn't have a clear plan of what I wanted to do when I got to the crease. And you go out like that, you've lost from ball one. Like, and I just think going back to basics, like just strip it down and just go back to when I used to work with Raj and Jerry at age 12, 13, like what I used to do then, like has really helped me just think that is what I'm really good at, like, and not trying to be someone else. That's the last year, no, say from June last year to June the year before, was probably my toughest period as a pro so far. They got, well, we got I was dropped to the second team. I wasn't scoring runs. We got another batter in on loan. Like it was just a bit like, didn't feel any confidence from anyone at that point. But that's how cricket is sometimes. It's not we get unlimited chances. You just got to take them when you get them.
Darren, how important is it to keep that neutral mindset and not overcomplicate things?
Well, yeah, you've obviously got to have a clear mindset and a plan of how you're going to go about things, whether that's just go out and face the first 20 balls and see where I am then, or whether it's where am I going to score runs. And I think it's also important, I mean, hopefully Tom will back me up on this, that when you do succeed, you don't get too high on yourself. And when you are struggling, don't get too low on yourself, because there's going to be a lot of lows, especially as a batsman, when you're choosing professional cricket as a career. And I think, knowing him for as long as I have, that's something I think he's been very good at. He doesn't get too up himself, for want of a better expression, if he does well, and he doesn't get too, well, maybe he does. I don't know him that well, but maybe he doesn't get too down on himself when it's not going that well. So.
But just one thing, I was pretty bad at this, I'll admit. But coaches have to be very careful, because when you're dealing with better players, what you got to understand is everyone has got ticking off points. Now, say someone else has done really well in a game, you come to the changing room, and the words you use to praise that person, you have to be really careful with, because you might not know that the guy who is maybe not playing today or hasn't done well today, those words, he's taking in a completely different way. Okay, so as a coach, you got to be really careful before you open your mouth in the changing room, after games especially, and before games, because you might be saying things with an absolute clear heart, and you're not meaning anything bad for anyone, but that person might perceive something completely different and think that, oh, I have to change my game, or I have to bat in a certain way. And those things do happen. And that's why, personally, I don't think that, the system that we have now got in international cricket, first class cricket, you got that many support staff. So you got a batting coach, bowling coach, spin bowling coach, wicket keeping coach. I don't think that really works, because if a boy or girl is going through a difficult period in a team environment, he or she is most unlikely to go and talk to the batting coach and say, right, you know what, I'm struggling a bit against the short ball, because he knows that within 2 days, that guy is going to be on a selection meeting where he's going to be talking about me. So that's why there was this podcast the other day where Hussein and Key and David Lloyd were all there, and they were saying that whether there needs to be a shift, like in some other games, where the player goes to his or her own coach, where there is 150% trust that what I'm talking to you is not going back in a changing room environment or a selection committee environment, because that person is not going to ask for help when he knows that his asking for help is becoming public, because the circuit is like a pyramid. Okay, a lot of people slide off, very few go to the top. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I, I'd say international cricket is probably more like that. We don't have too many support staff at Sussex, but I believe I do in like last summer especially. I did enjoy coming away from it and doing some cricket away from it. That did help me because I couldn't really explain the problems I was having at the ground. It wasn't. I just couldn't explain that to anyone. I didn't know really what to say. I thought you'd understand it best. But I just stripping it back to the real basics with what I used to do with Raj and Jerry when I was 12, 13 is what that is the way it works. You can't overcomplicate it. You just got to do hard hours. It might be boring, but it works.
Would there be
Because there's a lot of say Alistair Cook went back to see someone like Gary Palmer. Rory Burns went back to his old coach when he was having a bit of a rough time. And I know a lot of guys in India who have all done that. But, because I think at that point, the main thing that happens is in an environment like where there's a lot of support staff, the job of the support staff is towards the entire team. Okay, the well-being of the team is the job of the support staff. So they are right in what they are doing. But when you go back to your mentor, coach, whatever, that person's job is not towards the team. That person's job is towards the player. That's the only person he's concerned about. He doesn't give a monkey's about what's happening outside. And I think that makes a bit of a difference.
Yeah, I agree completely.
There was, I know, an Indian opening bat. They were on a tour of South Africa, and he had gone to the coach and said, after the team practice is done, can I have about half an hour on the machine on the short ball? Right. And before the end of the evening, there had been 3 guys from the press who had gone up to him and asked, so having problems with the short ball? Having problems with the short ball? You know how it works.
Yeah.
So he said, then I realized I can't go to him.
Yeah.
Tom, would there be anything you would want to change in the structure of growing up? So maybe the system or something like that in counties. Would there be anything that you'd want to have differently if you could change it?
What, like youth systems?
Yeah, is that youth systems. So is there a better way that if you could, would you want to change anything or not?
I don't. I think there's got to be a certain, like a certain level of coach. You can't have any old person coming in and coaching youngsters. But I think the system I came through personally was pretty good. Like I had decent coaches all the way through. I had Raj, Jerry till I was about 15, 16. Then I was on the academy, so I didn't see much of them whilst I was at school and on the academy. But I think the system through Sussex has been pretty good to me. I don't see many flaws in it.
Darren, is there anything that you would, if you could change anything, would you?
Not really sure, really, having not been in it. Tom would know it better than me. I think I do agree quite a lot with what he said about the most important time of any upcoming cricketer's life is probably when he's 12, 13. And that is when you need like Tom said, a coach of a certain level steering them in what could be the right direction. And also what he said earlier, agree 100% with that. You've got to find what works for you as well. I mean, it's okay when you're 10, 11 years old trying to copy Ian Bell's cover drive, that's fine. But when you're a little bit older, find out what your batting style, how you're going to score runs, what works for you, and stick to that. Just try to add little bits to that. Don't try and copy other guys, or this guy hits it 100 yards. I can't do that, so I'm going to try and do that, because that doesn't work for some people.
Raj?
I agree with what he's saying, because at times as a coach, right, not saying anything is really good. So you might go through 2 sessions where you haven't said anything. But to do that, you have to have played the game.
Yeah.
If you haven't played the game and you're coaching, you're always going to be insecure as a coach. You're thinking that, oh, I'm not doing my job. But when you have played the game, you understand when you leave a player alone. You don't need to talk to him at that point. You might just go and ask him how things are and completely off cricket stuff. And you have to understand when that guy needs help. And that will not happen without spending time in the game.
Raj, coming back onto your point about having the experience, I think it was interesting because like you said on the podcast the other night, they had David Lloyd saying that actually badges don't mean anything. It's the experience that you've had in the game to start criticising. Would you definitely agree on that?
100%. Badges mean nothing. Badges only teach people 2 things. How, if someone is coming out of the pro game, that only teaches you how to talk to a group of kids, as he was saying, and how to lay out the chain if you don't know that. But other than that, badges don't mean anything. So Viv Richards doesn't have any badge. Gavaskar doesn't have any badge. Tendulkar doesn't have any badge. Dravid, I don't know whether he has got any badges. So do you mean that the guy who has level God badge is going to, but never played the game, is going to be better than those guys talking batting? It just cannot be. Okay. Most important thing is the feel factor. And I'll explain it to you what I mean by the feel factor. You have to ride the journey of the player yourself. Though it's not always right, but not all players you can ride, but you know who is likely to make the step up. Okay. And with that person, you need to keep a tab on, not stalk, but so you have to feel the happiness with him or her and the sadness with him or her when they are experiencing it at the same time. Then only you will realize what they are going through.
Yeah. Just before
if you realize that.
Exactly.
If you realize that and you've built up that relation with the player, then it is a lot easier to coach that player.
Yeah, I think I think we could obviously do a whole podcast on coaching badges. But like you say, I think that was it's quite an important part, knowing your step and what coaches you want to depend on. Because actually, in the end, a few ticks in a box doesn't really mean as much as playing the game and playing international cricket, does it? So, Tom, I suppose the last message or last question I'll ask you is, to any young cricketers like myself, and what message would you give to them for them to want to play county cricket?
A message I give is you're only going to do it your own way. You're not going to do it trying to be someone else. And so you have your training drills that make you better. You have your shots in the game which score you runs. The quicker you realise that and what makes you better, the best chance it will give you. Obviously enjoy it and all those other things, but the quicker you realise what's best for you and how you're going to be the best player with your skill set, the much better for you.
Right, I think that comes to an end to a really another interesting podcast with Tom. Tom, thank you very much for coming on and giving your time to us today. Like usual, please may you follow us on Spotify, Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. And that's it from us, so bye for now.